Um, uh, it's I'm really pleased that those of you have hung on in there with us, because it is quite a different experience doing Clayfest like this, and Lou is going to by and thank the team that have made this happen, and I'm just going to get in there first and do it. Uh, Robin and Morgan and Sarah, and it's a little bit stressful. It's a little bit stressful. I feel like we've kind of managed to get our way through it, and so have a little bit of a talk about the last couple of days. And
we were,
Rowland,
almost in this way that we hadn't actually had a little conversation about how we'd start this summing up. So I think what we're going to do is have a sort of conversation to begin with, and then do a summing up after that. So you wanted to start by just reflecting on the last few days, and I'm going to put some little prompts there, Rowland, and then you can sort of expand on those. So bringing projects to us.
Yeah, so it's just something I've been trying to sort of seed that as we've gone along, and I suppose that this is mainly to UK and Ireland participants, but by any means. All of the projects that we have done have come to us in one way or another, and we as a group have said, yes, this is something that we're interested to take it further. And some of them have come where with people that are saying, we know that there's a funding, and can you help us fill in the forms as an organization? And some of them, they've come to us and said, we have no idea how to fund this, and then put our heads together and think about how to do that. And of course, Clayfest is one of the ways that we fund, right? So that's otherwise it'd be lovely to do a free, but it just brings a little bit of funds into us that allows these things to happen. And when I'm making that call out, I'm also making the call out to all of the non-UK and Ireland who have their own organizations or don't have their own organizations, but want to think about how to do these things, and just realize that, as Anthony was just saying, and John, it's an enormous amount of volunteer time and effort, and it's doing things that you're not necessarily totally comfortable in doing, because it's not building, it's building relationships and networks. But try and support anything that you want support with as best we can, as well. But it's the most difficult thing, I think, with Ebuki is to get that public membership engagement thing happening, and get your ideas about what you think it really needs to happen now, and bring it to us, and we can have a discussion. We can push forward together, because it's easier to do it as a group than as an individual or a single company or whatever. So yeah, that was my soapbox. I'll have to get off it again, and then probably I'll have to get back on.
The next one starts to think about some of the divisive topics that have been covered over the last few days. And the first one there is about plastics. And this is really to ask you, as people who've attended, how you feel about that. Do we keep this as a topic, or actually is the use of plastics in construction something that's separate from our core? And we really welcome your ideas on that as well. And I know Rowland's also got something else to add here.
Have I? Well, I mean, it's it is. But I mean, we started Ebuki right from the word go. We said that we wouldn't have cement in it. And that was just a simple thing. This is concrete, this is earth. It's an easy divide. As soon as you got beyond that, now it's like, well, how about lime? Yeah, how about lime? What about bitumen? Well, maybe, yeah. And now over the last couple of days, and of course we've then got this wider connection to natural building, timber and straw as fibers. How core should we stay to just Earth as an organization, as as Clayfest, and how much should we be exploring and pushing out into some of these other contentious areas? And please do put it in the chat, because we will save the chat and we will look at the chat and we will think about your ideas and what it is that so give us a bit of guidance, give us a bit of feedback. Just put it in the chat now. You like plastic, you like straw, you don't like straw, you think it should all be lumped in together, you think it should all be kept apart. So
thank you, Rowland.
yes, nice jumper, Lou.
I have to say, whilst it's great working remotely, sometimes you're so miserable you just need a nice new jumper. So we've all had our moments where we need a little something to lift us. So the next thing, and I think this comes out from that sort of banter and chat that we have as well, is the idea of networking. There are various networks that already use social media. And again, this is something else that Rowland wants to share some ideas about.
When we start, there was a question about whether we should start an organization, whether it was relevant, did we need it, and so on. And there was already existing some regional organizations, DEBA and Eartha and EMES in the East Midlands. And we've, have tried over years to try and reach out and work with those regional organizations. And where they didn't exist, like Ebuki in Scotland, for the Scottish members to get together and make Ebuki in Scotland. And now, there's a Facebook page for Ebuki in Ireland. And to have these more as well as this national thing. So you've got the ultra local, you and your mate down the road, and then you've got this sort of regional thing happening in your area, and then you've got this national thing, and then it all joins up together. And that we know that as a national organization, a lot of opportunities to then network with organizations in Europe, and maybe we've seen an opening today with CRI and so on, to make those connections. And I'd like to encourage anyone that has a national organization to join it, that doesn't have a national organization to make one up, because that's essentially what we've done, and to let others know that you're doing it, and ask for help and support wherever you can, because Earth just doesn't speak for itself. You have to be that voice, I have to be that voice, we have to be that voice, and that you kind of do it and see, oh, look at what Andy's doing down in South Africa, and look at what Fiona's doing in Egypt, and it gives you a little bit of confidence and strength to see those things happening. And we actually really need that, because it can be a lonely thing.
Okay, and that takes us on to our next thing we want to talk about, which is about the organisation, about what Ebuki does. Does Ebuki help in bringing people together? And actually, as Rowland says, if you don't have a similar organisation, would you like help setting up something similar? We very much would like to help others in setting up a similar organisation if they feel a need for something like that. And I think that is one of our strengths, the way in which we can look across things and help create those networks. And then the other aspect we've been talking about so much is about training, and very much inspired by all of that amazing discussion this morning as well from Jeffrey. And whether these training issues are actually unique to the UK and Ireland, or actually whether these training issues are there in the rest of the world. And actually, we provide a format and a forum for those discussions here. And if they are happening in other places, then where is that? And how do we best sort of engage with some of those discussions around training as well?
Yeah, I mean, you've just seen from the conversation, and maybe heard a little bit from Becky and myself about Jump, that there are all different aspects to this whole training conversation. And as with the standards conversation, people are saying, well, you can't assess earth building. That's ridiculous. It's just something that you just feel yourself. And while on the one hand, that's how I learned. I do feel that maybe we need to use training and training standards as a way of giving people confidence to step forward as an 18, 19, 20-year-old, that you'll get something that you can hold on to and take to an employer and say, yeah, I can do this. So have we got through our list?
That I think is really important, which is about our practice, our bias, and that danger of othering. And the othering within the sector, the othering of people who use different materials, whether that's plastics, lime, and also the othering of the mainstream construction industry as well. And we just need to be very mindful of what that bias does and how we are perceived and how others perceive, us within that. And I think that also picks up on some of those discussions through that last paper about the dangers sometimes of language, that idea of earth buildings being hobbit houses, and how perception, how we are impacted by it, but also then how our perceptions of others and other approaches have that negative impact as well. Which I think is what we wanted to sort of say in that particular heading, Rowland.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting how this word othering has come up over a number of different topics today. And so when I talked to Lou about this, and she said, oh yeah, the post-colonial, and it's like, well, yeah, the post-colonial, but also plastic. Plastic is there's a sort of temptation to say, oh well, if you're dealing with plastic, then you're the devil, or we won't talk to you. It's very easy to get yourself into a sort of a purity box and sort of try and stay there. One of the big things, and I think it really came out through Jeffrey's podcast, which I strongly recommend you listen to because they're so interesting, is that there's us and then there's conventional construction. But actually conventional construction, it's a big machine, and if we could start feelers into that machine and gets people training with clay mortars in conventional situations, it could be massive. It could be absolutely enormous and a big opening for us. And so we've been playing around with these materials for quite some time, maybe at a smaller scale. When is the point that we're going to press the button and say, okay, we're going to now play with you big guys? It's and then I know a lot of people, you're going to shrug and say, well, if they would only ever talk to us. Really try to speak to them, and how do we really try to speak to them? What's the route to entry? Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I think that's
Thank you, Rowland, for that. So I have actually written a conclusion, which is very unlike me to actually prepare so well in advance or anything. But there are so many important things that have been covered over the last few days, and also a huge number of people who we need to thank for all of their work as well. So I am a trustee for Earth Building UK and Ireland, and it has been a real pleasure to listen to all the speakers and all the conversations through Clayfest. And we were established over 12 years ago, and like all organisations, we've grown and changed through that time. But what's unique and what I'm really proud of is the way we bring practitioners and academics across new build and across conservation and across so many different areas together. And we really challenge that really false split between both, between new build, between conservation, between practitioners and between academics. And we really challenge that norm that sadly was established in the 19th century when, through the professionalisation of trades and that concurrent demise of traditional apprenticeships within the UK, that we had this false split created between those that design from those that build. And I think everybody, you know, virtually in this room knows that this is a completely false split. So we are all, and this is very much paraphrasing much of the research on practical skills transmission and how we learn, we're all thinking with tools in our hands, whether that's conservation, whether that's in new build. And it's really important where this all intersects as well. And that's what we believe in Ebuki. So the highlight for Earth Building UK and Ireland is Clayfest every year. As you know, this is normally a physical event. And like so many other things this year, we've adapted to move it online. And we've actually seen really useful and remarkable impacts of that. The discussion that we've been able to have, the way in which people from all over the UK, Europe, and the rest of the world have been able to join in and take part. And we do need to see that these new ways of working that have emerged over 2020 are real opportunities for us as an organisation and for everybody who's interested in building or conserving with Earth. So as a trustee, I have to thank our amazing execs, our project officers, our volunteers and our trustees. So Rowland, Tom Morton, Becky Little, Rebecca Reed, Lou Halestrap, Ros Artis, Sally Mariecki, Robin Britton, Sarah Roberts, Daniel Postma, Will Stanwicks, Dan Maskell, Peter Walker and Adam Wiseman. And I think I've got everybody on the list, but if I've left anybody out, that is just me on a Saturday afternoon writing a list. So I apologise if I have. So every year we have our annual meeting. Legally, we have to do that as part of our role as a charity. But we have those meetings with our trustees and with our execs, so with our project officers. And this is really, really unusual and really demonstrates the flat structure we have within the organisation. One of the things that we did when we met last February was to do a SWOT analysis of the organisation. So what were our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities and our threats? And I just want to take a moment to reflect back on this really unusual year and actually how Ebuki has adapted to that as an organisation and how we transform some of our weaknesses into strengths as well. So our strengths remain our passion, our enthusiasm, the fact that we're adaptable, but also the fact that we're opportunistic as well. One of our weaknesses has always been the fact that we have no infrastructure. We don't have an office, we don't have a building. But actually this year, that's ended up being one of our strengths. The fact that we have already been doing all of these things online. We've had all of our meetings online every month for about the last 10 years, I think. Then the opportunities are that we are a networking organisation. We're really open, we're very welcoming, and we're highly relevant and becoming even more so as well with those changes in the UK that we're seeing through things like the planning white paper and that emphasis on carbon and the environment. And then our threats, like many small organisations,